We will now pass to the next presentation from our colleague from the Research Executive Agency. Her name is Margaux Genachte, and she will tell us something about the evaluation process.
So, good morning. I'm Margaux Genachte, as Nina just said. I'm working in the Research Executive Agency in Unit B3, which is the unit responsible for the evaluation of societal sciences and the implementation of the project. So we are working very closely with our parent DG and policy unit, where Zoltan is working in DG RTD B6. So today briefing, I will spend some time to explain the evaluation process and then give you some tips and tricks to draft a good proposal. I'm not going into details regarding the evaluation criteria and award criteria because we have expert evaluators which are going to give you some advice on it later on today. So, as you know, in 2019 we have 3 calls of proposal for SC6 and 25 topics. So the Societal Challenge 6 is addressed by 3 types of action depending on the scope of the topic. And also Zoltan has discussed this previously. We have different types of action which can which differ in terms of number of participants, purposes, and funding rates. So pay attention when you start reading the work program. For research and innovation action, the funding rates, the EU funding rate is 100%. For innovation action, the EU funding rate is 70%, or 100% for non-profit legal entities. And for coordination and support action, the funding rate is 100%. Pay also attention to the page limit in the proposal template. The proposal cannot exceed 70 pages for REA and EA action and 50 pages for coordination and support action. This is a very important point. If you don't respect these rules, experts will not be able, and we are not going to be able to read what you have drafted because the pages will be blank. So you cannot play with the template, okay? Regarding the timeline, so as you know, the call has been published 2 days ago, so you can start working, and will close the 14th of March 2019, which means that you have more or less 4 months to prepare your proposal. The 14th of March, we have 8 months to organize the evaluation, send the evaluation outcome, and sign all the grant agreement. This is what we call the time to grant. It's always 8 months, and this rule applies for all H2020 call for proposal. We plan to organize the evaluation in 5 months and to inform applicant on the result of the 2019 evaluation mid-July. Then straight after, start the grant agreement preparation phase, and all the contracts have to be signed by mid-November 2019. The evaluation are, of course, based on key principles, which are that proposal will be treated fairly and equally, no differentiation. Proposal will be evaluated on criteria which are always announced in work program and general annexes. It's a confidential process, of course, and proposal will be evaluated by independent experts, which are contracted by the Research Executive Agency. At this stage, maybe I can give you some information on the expert management and how we are selecting experts. So now, before the call deadline, you are busy with the preparation of your proposal, and we are busy by looking for experts. Our project officer, for the time being, are searching for experts in a European database where researchers can register themselves if they wish to act as evaluators. So if you are interested, we are always happy to have newcomers, so you can register in this database, or of course our project officers are also looking for experts in a research website and other means. They are looking for experts and selecting experts based on experience, knowledge, competence. They are taking people in order to cover all the discipline addressed in the work program and the particular topic. So at the end of the call opening, we have a very big pool of experts because we don't know yet exactly how the proposal will look like. Then we will brief the expert, and experts are briefed to understand, of course, the call, the scope of the topic, the evaluation criteria, and their mandate. Bear in mind that in Horizon 2020, there is no negotiation approach during the grant agreement phase, which means that it's a yes or no. Only the very best proposal will be selected. Experts are briefed to evaluate the proposal based on information included in the proposal. They cannot read other sources. So it's very important that you are very clear in your proposal. And regarding the workload, each expert will evaluate from 5 to 8 proposals each. So after the call deadline, what do? We receive the proposal. The project officer will check if the proposals are admissible or eligible. Then we will allocate proposal to expert based on the actual proposal. So we are sure that the experience and disciplines are match the proposal. A proposal will be evaluated by 3 experts, which will remotely submit what we call an individual report. After this phase, one of the 3 experts will have to draft a consensus report based on the 3 individual evaluation report. During this phase, also remotely, the 3 experts will have to discuss and agree on the scores and comment and submit the consensus report. After this phase, we have already a draft ranking list, and we will invite by topic 5 experts to check the final ranking list. During this panel review meeting in Brussels, the expert will have to discuss minority view, if any, rank the ex aequo proposal, if any, check consistency and score among all the consensus report, and finally endorse the final ranking list. At this stage, the evaluations are over, and we will send information to applicant and start the grant agreement preparation. This is something that you know. Evaluations are based on 3 criteria. They are the same for all the action: excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of implementation. Now, of course, each award criteria is subdivided into sub-criteria, which can differ depending the type of action. So they are exactly the same for REA and EA and differ for coordination and support action. Here you have the award criteria for REA and EA action, and here for CSA. As I said, you will have some discussion about that later on today. Now, the idea is to give you some tips and tricks to draft your proposal. And also I will show you some frequent misshapes and some comments we frequently receive from experts. So the call opened 2 days ago and will close in 4 months. So start now, because a good proposal needs time and evolution. 70 pages, it's quite long. Learn the language. The proposal is your application. The participant portal is the Commission electronic submission tool. It's the compulsory gateway for H2020 proposal. And the consortium, for sure, you know what is it. It's a group of organizations submitting a proposal with a defined coordinator. Before you start, be familiar with the SC6 work program. Read it carefully. And read also, because very often you are well aware of the work program, but you are not reading the general annexes to the work program. In this document, you will find the admissibility, the eligibility criteria, the threshold, the scoring rules. This is extremely important that you carefully read the general annexes of the work program. And we also suggest you to download the proposal template and have a look on how it is built before starting thinking of drafting your proposal. The proposal template is divided in 2 parts. The part A is, let's say, the administrative part, in which you will find the general information, abstract, participant contact details, budget, etc. And the part B is the narrative part. That's the core. It has to address each criteria and each sub-criteria. Again, there is a page limit, 70 pages for ARIA and EA, and 50 pages for CSA. I'm insisting because a lot of applicants' proposal lost point because they doesn't respect this rule. No. What I suggest is that you read carefully the core topic text, as your proposal will have to answer the scope and expected impact. So the specific challenge is the problem. Of course, in the work program, you will not find a solution because you are supposed to propose something new. The scope is the problem in detail, and then the expected impact. And this is an important point. You have to keep in mind that for SC6, each award criteria has the same weight. So don't focus only on excellence. It's extremely important that you think impact and you think implementation. If you miss one of the sub-criteria under impact or implementation, even if excellence is perfect, you will not be funded. So the quality, if, as I said, a key to success, demonstrate what, why, how. An excellent idea is the basis of a good proposal, but it's not sufficient. The expected impact and implementation aspect are as important. Okay, looks obvious, but we always have these comments from experts. Address carefully all the criteria. A good way to proceed when you are submitting a proposal can be to first start by drafting 2-3 pages about the objective, the target group, the major step. When it's done, you can go further and start to fine-tune your proposal, detail your objective, think about your methodology, and the main working step. We suggest you to create the budget by having a bottom-up approach, which means that define your task and agree on them and then design your budget. When your tasks are well defined, then you can translate them into person months. I also have an important point to make here. Last year, in 2018 calls, a lot of proposals lost point because they offer financial support to third party in cascade funding, open calls, prizes. It is not allowed except if it explicitly detailed in the work program. Last year, it was only allowed for governance aid, and this year, this budgetary construction is allowed only for governance 19. Keep it in mind. We had excellent proposal last year who lost point because they required money to offer financial support to third parties. This is allowed only for governance 19. The final polishing is often underestimated, and it's very important, especially when we have a limited amount of time. So revise your proposal. If possible, you can also try to have to organize a mock evaluation. We have a template in the participant portal. Ask someone to revise your proposal and then submit your proposal on time. Here are the frequent misshape we see. So very often we have a mistake regarding admissibility and eligibility criteria. That's the reason why I insist, read carefully the general annexes of the work program. The call deadline is not flexible. So if at the time of the call deadline your proposal is not complete, you will not be able to update it. And an incomplete proposal is inadmissible. Okay? Be careful with the country's eligibility. There are details in the general annexes of the work program. Is for REA and EA, minimum 3 EU member states or associate countries. In addition, we have other requirements depending of the topic, so you have also to check the work program itself. And for coordination and support action, it's minimum 1 country. The page limit, I already told you that if you exceed the page limit, the expert will not see what you have drafted, so there is no point to try to play with the proposal template. And of course, follow the structure and address every sub-criteria. Here are some comments that we often get from experts. Excellence, methodology is not sufficiently described, proposal does not specify how it goes beyond the state of the art, the dissemination and communication plan is not sufficiently addressed, the impact is not mentioned, the budget is not justified, the management is not clear, is not clearly detailed. This is the kind of comment we very often get from experts. And at last but not least, check in the participant portal under your topic description if your topic is flagged as a cross-cutting issue. If it's the case, you have to address it while drafting your proposal. You can have a very, very instruction, very useful and a guideline on how to address cross-cutting issue in the online H2020 online manual. There is a full chapter in this document on how to address cross-cutting issue. It's very useful, and I honestly have the impression sometimes that the applicant doesn't read it. So print it and read the chapter on cross-cutting issue in the online manual. And don't forget that you win by explaining. What I mean is what I said before. Experts are briefed and allowed to evaluate only what is in the proposal. Sometimes applicants think are evident and experts will guess. No, you have to be specific and detailed. This is other frequent misshape, but it's not really readable, so maybe we can circulate it. I'm sorry for this. And finally, this is all the useful website where you can find all the important information. As you see, there is a template for mock evaluation. It's very useful. I'm not sure that you were aware about that. Information on ethics, all the templates, the reference document, and proposal template, and so on. So that's it for my part, but I'm here to take questions.
Thank you very much, Margaux. Yes. So we do have a question over there. Nikolai? You? Nikolai? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is, how will resubmissions will be handled? Is there a guarantee that the evaluator panel will change or not?
So if you resubmit, of course, it is a good advice is to address the comment of the previous evaluator. So now each evaluation is independent to each other. So the new expert assessing your proposal will not have access to the previous proposal. But at the end of the consensus phase, we provide the evaluation summary report of the previous proposal to experts to make sure that we are consistent in our evaluation. That's the way we deal with re-evaluation. But we recommend, of course, if you re-evaluate, if you resubmit, to address the comment of the previous evaluation.
Thank you very much for your presentation. My question is how to include those institutions, specifically administrative institutions, that we want to incorporate, but not as partner, because if not, the consortium will be very great, big. So can we include these collaborators, institutions in the end of the, I don't know, in the end, before, no, after the issues, ethics issues in the template, because we want to incorporate in the proposal in any place, but not as partners. So can we, I don't know, include a support letter
so
or
you have
something?
yes. You have in the proposal template. You have the annexes, so if you want to add some partner which are not going to be participants, so meaning that they are not going to sign anything with the Commission, either you add them as subcontractor, but that depends of the task you want them, that depends of the task they will have in the project, or you can add there as letter of support from other parties. This is annexes to the part B of the proposal, in where you can add the different partner and detail a bit what they are going to do. No, it's outside the page limit. So the page limit for part B is at the end of section 3, okay? The section 4 and section 5 are not including in the page limit, so don't worry. If you have some partner to add, it will not go in the 70 pages.
Thank you.
Yeah, we just have one question from Slido, which concerns evaluation, and it asks if if understood correctly, that the 3 evaluation blocks, so impact and so weiter, have the same weight, but what happens in case of a tie? So in the case that there are proposals that are equally...
You mean ex aequo cases?
Pardon?
If at the end of the evaluation we have ex aequo cases. So in the work program, general annexes again, so I told you, it's very interesting. The general annexes have detail a clear procedure on how to deal with ex aequo cases. So the first element that experts are going to take into account if we have execo cases is to check the budget allocated to SMEs. So the higher the budget on SME is in a project, the higher the proposal will be in the ranking list. If after that we still have execo cases, it's never happened, but it might, we are going to check the gender dimension in the proposal, and then we will see synergy among topics. But honestly, very often we have execo cases, we check the SME budget, and we have the answer on which one go first.